You got what you deserved. Pointing to pro-Palestinian protesters and essentially telling them, well, this issue isn't binary, but the outcome of this election is you gotta vote for me because the other guy is bad, is so despicable. And it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. So I know she thinks she's doing the work here. I don't think she's doing the work. I think she's under the impression that she's gonna launch a campaign rebranding herself as some sort of warrior or fighter for the Palestinian cause or for the progressive cause or for the anti-establishment cause. But you wanna know when that would have mattered? When she was in a position to do something about it and she did nothing. Well, it certainly looks like Kamala Harris is serious about running for president in 2028. And how do we know that? Well, a new Axios piece gets into the details about the various figures she's been meeting with behind the scenes. And New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani, a self-described democratic socialist, someone who is certainly to the left of Kamala Harris, someone who is unapologetically critical of Israel, that's the person she met with, along with other progressive groups, and even members of the Arab American community who were furious with her because she chided them, ignored them, and wouldn't even let one of her Arab surrogates speak at the Democratic National Convention because she was so terrified that she might say something about Palestine and the fact that the Palestinians have been dealing with a genocide under Kamala Harris's watch, along with Joe Biden, of course, the president at the time. Kamala Harris was the vice president, but she kind of went along with everything Biden was doing and said that she wouldn't change a thing. She literally said that. Now, all of a sudden, I think she's realizing, ooh, all these establishment Democrats who have been doing Israel's bidding, they're having a tough time winning re-election. Some of them are getting voted out. DeGette over in Colorado, who had been in office for 30 years, was just beaten in her primary by a democratic socialist who is unapologetically defending the Palestinian people and criticizing Israel. It's kind of incredible. So according to Axios, Harris called Mamdani last Thursday to talk about the party's future and plan a longer conversation. A person familiar with the call told Axios. Okay, before I continue, there are, I'm sure, some Democratic voters in the audience who have some sympathy for Kamala Harris, and I really don't want to upset you. So I just want to give you fair warning. My commentary is gonna upset you. Kamala Harris is a disgrace and she's not fooling anyone. You're not fooling anyone, okay? Like this whole chameleon thing she does, where in 2020 she runs to the left of Bernie Sanders, by the way, or pretends to be to the left of Bernie Sanders. 2024, in that 3-month campaign that she had, she starts off by kind of pretending like she's a progressive. Then she immediately does this pivot to the pro-corporate wing of the Democratic Party. And it's like, okay, what are your values? She's the female version of Gavin Newsom. In fact, the two of them, honestly, behind the scenes are rivals because the two of them are the same. Maybe not aesthetically, maybe not when it comes to race and gender, but in terms of values, they are the same. They have none. So like having conversations with people like Zoran Mamdani, attempting to ingratiate yourself with the very people that you very offensively swatted away in 2024 isn't gonna fool anyone. But let me just continue with what else we've learned through this reporting in Axios. So she apparently occasionally texted with Mamdani in the last few months and called him 2 days after his endorsed candidates in New York won their races. Now, Harris and her team are also reaching out to pro-Palestinian activists and has been doing so over the past year. So that includes Abbas Alaway, who is the co-founder of the 2024 Uncommitted movement, which of course grew out of frustration over Joe Biden's foreign policy in the Middle East, which aided and abetted genocide, the genocide of the Palestinian people. So you had all these Arab Americans, certainly in places like Michigan, who raised their hands and said, look, we've historically voted for Democrats, but no, we're uncommitted now because how can we vote for the Democratic candidate unless we have assurances that all this slaughter of our people ends? And of course, it didn't end. Trump comes in and puts Biden's disgusting, loathsome, contemptible foreign policy on steroids. They're both terrible. Okay, so I don't want you to think like, oh no, I mean, Biden was so much better. They're both terrible. Like I've said before, Joe Biden provided the lubrication for us and the Arab people to get effed. Okay, that's what he did. So let's get back to Allaway. So during their talks, he reiterated my longstanding position that American tax dollars should never be used to target civilians or destroy entire communities. Allaway, let's go further. Let's go further, much further. Okay, it's simply not good enough at this point for me to simply say, let's stop voting in favor of, defensive or offensive weaponry. No, let's sanction them. They're committing genocide and ethnic cleansing in the Middle East. Embargo, sanction. That is the right way to go. I'm so far past maybe we temporarily stop sending them all our money so they can slaughter people with it. No, I think we should sanction them. But anyway, Allaway, who stressed he wasn't speaking for the uncommitted movement, added that he shared with her that members of the community that I'm seeking to represent have recently lost family members in Israeli airstrikes and have been supported by the United States. So like how are you gonna, I wouldn't even be able to look at Kamala Harris in the face. Like I'd be so disgusted. I would not take a meeting with her. I do not begrudge any of these people for agreeing to speak with her, by the way. It's their right to do so. Absolutely no bad vibes in that direction. My bad vibes are 100% reserved for Kamala Harris, who is embarrassing, who has no values, who is attempting to use these people for her own political aspirations. And it makes me sick. Like, what do you represent? What are your values? What are your principles? I'm not sure she knows because she might not have any. So Harris also talked with James Zogby, who's a longtime member of the DNC and has advocated for Palestinian rights. He's the founder and president of the Arab American Institute.
How many of you guys are guilty of doom scrolling late at night on social media, looking at the news and then wondering why you can't fall asleep? Nothing pairs worse with trying to wind down than a bright screen lighting up your face and headlines playing on a loop in your head. Here's what's actually happening. The stress, the screen time, it all raises your core body temperature. And a body that's too warm can't get into deep sleep. Trust me, getting your sleep environment under control can change everything. Enter ChiliPad 2.0, the water-based mattress topper that actively controls your bed temperature from 55 to 115 degrees all night long. No new mattress, no renovation. It actively cools using just water. Fans only move hot air around. ChiliPad actually pulls heat away from your body. Precise, consistent comfort, and the new nightstand remote senses when you get into bed and kicks on automatically. Dual zones mean you and your partner each set your own temperature, no subscription needed. You get a 2-year warranty and they're designed and assembled right here in the USA. Visit www.sleep.me/TYT to get up to $255 off your ChiliPad 2.0 with code TYT. That's www.sleep.me/TYT. Free shipping, free returns, and a 30-night trial so you can test it out, dream big, and wake up better. The headlines will still be there in the morning. You might as well wake up ready for them.
Harris also reached out to former aides and other Democrats to discuss China, artificial intelligence, which, I'm sure she's gonna be great on these issues, Venezuela and other issues. People familiar with the communications told Axios. Now, in case I wasn't clear, let me just be clear right now. I personally find Kamala Harris to be weak, lame, old news. She wrote in her 2025 book, 107 Days, that she privately pleaded with Biden to show more empathy for civilians killed in Gaza. Okay, come back to me. No one needs empathy, okay? We need action. No one voted these people into office because they're just yearning for their empathy. Please, please give the Palestinian people some empathy. No. How about you stop sending weapons to the genocidal country that you vociferously defended? How about that? Can you consider that maybe, please? Empathy isn't gonna save people's lives, okay? No one needs your empathetic vibes. But okay, let me continue with what else Axios. Can you tell I'm annoyed here? Because it's just so obvious what she's doing. So he couldn't do it, she wrote. While Biden could passionately state, I am a Zionist, his remarks about innocent Palestinians came off as inadequate and forced. It wasn't about his statements. It was about his actions. He skirted congressional approval to send more and more weapons and money to Israel as they were dropping 2,000-pound bombs on civilians' heads. That was the problem, Kamala, not his statements. His statements were pretty bad too. Let's just keep it 100. But that was a smaller issue compared to his actions. He was the top politician in America who received money from the Israel lobby. He received the most money from AIPAC of any politician, left or right. That's the problem. That's the problem, Kamala. Harris also wrote that she sometimes was frustrated with pro-Palestinian protesters interrupting her campaign events in 2024. I don't know, maybe it would have been better for you to take their protest seriously. Maybe invite one of them to come speak with you at a rally if you're a serious person, but she's not. She said, quote, the issue was not binary, but the outcome of this election certainly was. Okay. No one owes you anything. The idea that the country owes you something because you're running against someone who's worse, those days are over. Those days are over. They're over. No more emotional manipulation to get votes from the Democratic base when you've done nothing for them. And in fact, have only helped this country regress by aiding and abetting the dismantling of international law, for instance. She had an opportunity on The View to clearly outline how her presidency would have been different from Biden's. And she said, I wouldn't change anything. So you got what you deserved. Pointing to pro-Palestinian protesters and essentially telling them, oh, well, this issue isn't binary, but the outcome of this election is, you gotta vote for me because the other guy is bad, is so despicable. And it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. So I know she thinks she's doing the work here. I don't think she's doing the work. I think she's under the impression that she's gonna launch a campaign rebranding herself as some sort of warrior or fighter for the Palestinian cause or for the progressive cause or for the anti-establishment cause. But you wanna know when that would have mattered? When she was in a position to do something about it and she did nothing. She did nothing. So that's what I think of Kamala Harris.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.